As most of you are pretty aware, the Chris Rock and Will Smith feud became the spotlight yet again after Rock's new comedy show Selective Outrage became a hit on Netflix. To add to the drama, American commentator Joe Rogan recently released a podcast on the subject. And let's say Will is not happy with his response. Stay with us till the end to find out. The Will Smith and Chris Rock altercation made the Oscars from last year one of the most memorable in television history. Rock, a comedian, was smacked on stage by Hollywood actor Smith after the latter joked about his wife. Smith had to face a lot of criticism throughout for his actions, and he was even banned from the Oscars for 10 years because of this. Despite all of that, Rock recently signed a $40 million deal with Netflix, and guess what he said? "You all know what happened to me getting smacked by Will Smith. Everybody knows, everybody effing knows. Yes, it happened. I got smacked. A year ago, I got slapped at the effing Oscars by this mother effer, and people are like, did it hurt? It still hurts. I got summertime ringing in my ear. But I'm not a victim. You will never see me on Oprah or Gayle crying." Yep, not only did he say that out loud, but he also dissed Will to the core by saying how his wife hurt him way more than he ever did during the Oscars. He said, his wife was effing his son's friend, okay? I normally would not talk about this S, but for some reason, they put that S on the internet. I have no idea why two talented people would do something that low down. What the F? As an attempt to bring out the fact that Jada Smith ended up cheating on her husband with his son's friend. He continued saying, "Everybody in here has been cheated on. None of us have ever been interviewed by the person that cheated on us on television. She hurt him way more than he hurt me." Oof, talk about emotional damage on public TV. The point here is that it just happened, and people are reacting to the situation. And there's much discussion on whether Rock did the right thing. Joe Rogan, a seasoned UFC color commentator, was also one of those who stepped into the drama. The incident was covered in depth by Rogan on his well-known podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. Joe Rogan thought it was cruel to bring up the one-year-old Slapgate incident in an attempt to bring about closure. The host of the YouTube program also discussed Chris Rock's ruthless method of destroying Smith's career and referred to it as savage. Do you guys think it was savage? Let us know in the comments below. During the show, Chris Rock split the crowd into two parts and divided the audience to create chaos while streaming the comedy show on a global network. Yet, regardless of how well-liked his humor was, Joe Rogan still thought it was cruel to the seasoned actor. Hold on though, there's more to the tale. Rogan brought up the one-year-old incident that took place during the 2022 Oscars to provide insight into the recent 95th Academy Awards event. After the incident, Rogan began talking about Chris Rock's Netflix special Selective Outrage. He mentioned that Chris Rock harbored resentment for a year before delivering his comedy special just before the 95th Academy Awards. He also thinks that Chris Rock intentionally targeted Will Smith and his family during his Furious performance. Damn, if you put it that way, it does look brutal. Joe said more about the slap and then told Bert Kreischer the S about Will Smith was ruthless. Ruthless. The podcast host continued saying, "It's just like, imagine, in life, you play chess, you move pieces around, you say, I do this, and the counter would be that. Imagine the thought like, I'm just gonna slap Chris Rock, one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time. It's not like he's going to tear my very vulnerable life apart after I smack him with some of the best comedy that anybody's ever written." Though it seems like Joe is on Will's side, he continues and blames Will, saying that he did the dumbest thing. Like, what a terrible, unprovoked attack. What a dumb thing to do, Joe said. The podcast host then further explained how Will caused all of this to himself and ruined his career with a dumb slap that shouldn't have happened in the first place. He said to be that person who's publicly loved, like Will Smith was until that moment. Nobody had a bad thing to say about. Maybe didn't like one movie or thought the superhero movie was dumb but everybody loved that guy. Rogan then stated that even more than the slap, his talking about keeping his wife out of the topic was an even worse addition. He said, "But those two, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth, those two are what sunk him." If he just slapped Chris Rock and then just sat down and didn't say anything, they wouldn't know what to do. It would kind of drift off and people would forget about it. According to Joe Rogan, Will Smith used every available strategy to portray the incident as a publicity ploy and convince the audience that it was all staged. But insulting the comedian and slapping him on live television started the whole thing. Rogan thought it was a stupid move by Will Smith, which Chris Rock addressed in a viciously funny comedy. But despite all the criticisms, Rogan also said that Smith is a human being and that he should be forgiven. Rogan said, "Now thinking about it, I'm like, that guy has to be forgiven. Like he clearly has deep remorse for what he's done. And he's also clearly living in a world where he was given nothing but adulation and praise for most of his life. And then all of a sudden, he has this one, in many people's eyes, unforgivable moment where he does something just so stupid. He's a human being. You just gotta forgive him, you know? And I think the real person who has to forgive him, if he wants to, is Chris Rock," he added. Well, I guess Joe Rogan pointed out everything to be said. However, it wasn't only Joe who reacted after the show came out. Even the former UFC welterweight title challenger Jake Shields took things to his Twitter and wrote, "Chris Rock goes hard," with an image of the two stars side by side. The image captioned, "Chris Rock says he watched Will Smith's slave movie Emancipation to see him get whooped." The former UFC fighter has a contentious attitude and is never afraid to express his opinions online. As a result, he posted the tweet without thinking twice. How do you feel about Shields' tweet? Most importantly, how do you think Will is dealing with all of this? As of now, Will hasn't personally spoken on the subject. However, we do have some sources that tell us how Will is feeling. A source told Entertainment Tonight, Will is embarrassed and hurt by what Chris said about him and his family in his Netflix special. He didn't watch it, but he had people tell him what Chris said. It's everywhere when you look online and on social media. So Will and Jada have seen comments about it. The source then added, Will apologized to Chris and would like for Chris to let it go. Will has worked on himself and he is banned by the Oscars for 10 years. He feels like that's enough and wants Chris to move on so that he and everyone else can too. Will is also upset that Netflix was a part of this and thinks Chris insulting Jada again is below the belt. He is upset that Netflix gave Chris this platform to share these messages and thinks it's distasteful. Meanwhile, a source said that Chris Rock would move on from all of this and that this was the last thing he would do. Chris wanted to get this out once and for all and be done with it. This was very cathartic to him. Another source told ET he said everything he wanted to say. It was funny, self-deprecating, and thought-provoking. Chris is ready to move on. Well, what'd you think, folks? Will there ever be an end to this feud? It's been a year already, and I think what Joe Rogan said is right. And Chris should forgive Will Smith. Unless that happens, I don't think this drama will end soon. But doesn't it also feel like Will is going through karma? I mean, the fact that Will fought for Jada while Jada publicly cheated on him sounds like a terrible thing to happen to a world-famous actor. Will did apologize to Chris many times on public and social media platforms before the show even came out. Do you think it was fair of Chris to take it down on him despite his countless apologies? Whose side are you on? Let us know in the comments below. Alright you guys, with that, we have come to the end of today's video. If you're here at our channel for the first time, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on post notifications to never miss out on the latest happening in the celeb world. We'll see y'all in another new video. Until then, bye!